The algorithm is what the spirit guides use to essentially get you to reincarnate. Ultimately, remember that it's the spirit guide's goal to get you to reincarnate. And if they can do so without having to use force, they prefer that, because a lot of people are like, well, why don't they just throw us all back in there? Because again, they're running on limited energy. They don't want to have to force you if they don't have to. If they can just get you to go back on your own, they prefer that, because they don't have as much energy and power as you think they do. So they try to persuade you and get you to reincarnate on your own if they can. And for the most part, for most people, that works. The algorithm, it essentially depends on your preconceived notions, which they gather during the life review. So what a lot of people think is the life review is actually them downloading your life data so that they can review that. And this happens in real time. You know, we're sort of in this, oh my goodness state, you know, after death, but this is happening in like nanoseconds of them downloading all of your data and then looking through your entire life and seeing, okay, what controlled this person the best during their life? Were they controlled primarily through fear? Well, then let's use a fear tactic to get them to reincarnate. Were they controlled primarily through religion? Well, let's show them an image of that religious leader and use that to get them to go back again. So the life review is essentially them downloading all of your data to see what is the best tactic to use to convince you based on how you behaved, or rather what controlled your behavior most during your lifetime. So they use what I call this algorithm. And again, the first question is reincarnate, yes or no? If you say yes easily, then you are marked as compliant. If you say no, that's where things get a bit interesting. All right. So what we know as spirit guides is actually divided into 4 main teams: the alpha team, the beta team, the gamma team, and finally what I call the delta force, or team delta. Now, this is how I categorize it. There are definitely at least 4 distinct teams. I named them that way in my notes when I was trying to piece this together. But pretty much this is how it works. In most of these NDEs that we know and love, the team of spirit guides that most of these people are meeting is the alpha team, right? They're the nice ones. They're the ones that welcome you in and smile and show you a friendly show that after death, you're going to meet this wonderful, friendly team of spirit guides, that everything's going to be okay, nothing to worry about, as long as you do what we say and follow our rules. So that's the alpha team. So again, if you say yes, if you fall for that whole NDE trick, right? If you say yes, you are marked as compliant. If you say no, they will mark you as hesitant. Then this is the point where they then give you a gentle nudge with a mission. Oh, but you have to return to Earth. You have an important mission to complete. If you say yes, if that's enough to convince you, then you are marked again as compliant, but you just need a gentle push, a gentle nudge, a reminder of a mission or something to do. If you say no again, that's when they get a little pushy. So you're still with the alpha team, but this time that's when they get you with the guilt tripping. They show you all the mistakes that you made during your life review. And they say, oh, but your family's going to miss you. Don't you want to go back for them? If you say yes, you get a green check mark. If you say no again, then you're marked as resistant. Resistant. And resistance is marked specifically by this indigo color. So a lot of your New Agers who call themselves an indigo starseed, what's the main characteristic of an indigo starseed? They're known as rebellious, right? Headstrong, rebels, very strong-willed but rebellious, right? What they may not realize, what I found out in my OBEs, that that's actually the mark of someone who repeatedly said no to reincarnation. They are marked with that indigo ray so that the spirit guides will always know who they're dealing with, a rebel. After this, then you are met with the beta team. They're the ones that are going to threaten you with hell, punishment, separation, if you don't agree to reincarnate. If you relent and say, yes, fine, okay, I don't want hell. I apparently don't qualify for heaven, but I don't want hell, so I'm going to go back and try again. Then it's going to be documented in the mainframe, as well as the Akashic records, that they had to use that tactic to get you to reincarnate. If you say no, even with the threat of hell, punishment, and separation, now you're on their radar. They mark you now as a potential hazard, because now they know that even the threat of hell, even using fear tactic, isn't enough to get you to reincarnate. That's when you meet with the Gamma team. The Gamma team they're essentially who you bargain with. They're like, all right. So hell didn't work to convince you. Your family members didn't work to convince you. All right, what do you want? What do you want? Riches, fame, popularity? What do you want to agree to reincarnate? What do you want? We'll make a deal. So this is the bargaining team, Team Gamma. These are the ones that, especially these days, you're seeing a lot more celebrities. Like Hollywood is saturated. The entertainment industry is saturated because a lot more people are requiring, some kind of bargain to agree to come back here. So if you agree, if that's what it takes for you to agree to come back, again, they're going to document this. Because if you enjoy the high life this time around, next time they're not going to be so willing to negotiate. They're going to do that whole thing of, oh, nope. You had a pleasant life last time. You need some struggles and some trauma this time around. So that's where you see that going around. But then if that still doesn't work, if you say no, absolutely not, no amount of money, fame, power, no amount of women, no amount of popularity, fame, nothing is going to convince me to return. Unfortunately, that's when you're met with the Delta Force, right? The special ops team that unfortunately are going to rough handle you. So this is what I depict here with Agent Smith here of the Matrix. They're essentially the folks that are going to, when you hear these NDE reports or pre-birth memories or past life regressions where they said they were pushed down into the portal that led to their new mother's birth canal, or they were stuffed back into their broken body. in the hospital room, or they were shoved back down to earth. Essentially, and I saw as well that a lot of these delta beings, that's where you get the grays, some call them the reptilians, whoever. These, they pose as spirit guides, but when they let down their veneer, you see who they really are. And they're not nice guys at all. None of them are, really. But there's literally this hierarchy. It follows this algorithm that if you keep repeatedly saying no, then eventually you're going to meet the Delta team. And they're the ones that are going to essentially push you back down, whether you liked it or not. So this is why I advocate, first and foremost, to avoid the white light tunnel. Because once you meet the alpha team, that's it. It's right. Because then you're going to just keep going from one team to another until eventually you find yourself back in a baby body. Or in the case of NDEs, back in your old body that's still recovering in the operation room or wherever. So, but if you find yourself, caught off guard by the white light tunnel and you get sucked in before you could, escape, it's not the end of the world. Again, what I advocate is trying to use quantum tunneling to get out of that layer of the astral realm. So that has worked for me. Other people have said that they've tried to teleport or do something, anything to get yourself out of there. Because once you start talking to these beings and get wrapped up in their protocols, right, their algorithm, then that's when things, that's when you're ultimately going to end up in a body one way or another. So the goal is to avoid the white light first and foremost, but if you can't, try to get out of there, because these teams are manipulative. And especially if you find yourself with the Delta team, which a lot of people can't remember, because this is especially the part of the memory that gets wiped, because they want to keep that alpha team image of that everything's nice and wonderful and pleasant, because they want to get everyone ready for the 5D ascension. So they want everyone on their side. So they have to act nice. So that's what all that is. So what I would like for people to do is to, get into a state, whatever it is, meditation, or just get into a quiet space and try to think back. Try to think back to before you were born. Some of you already have pre-birth memories, some of you don't. But sort of integrate, how your life is now and try to think back to where you were before. What team do you think you met before this life? Do you feel that you had a relatively pleasant experience during the in-between? Do you think that you willingly came back to Earth, that you willingly reincarnated? It could be that you met with the alpha team and that you were compliant and that you said yes and followed all of their rules and that you chose to come back here, quote unquote chose. I use quotes again because, again, there was some manipulation there, but if you felt that your pre-life experience was relatively easy or comfortable, and that you essentially agreed to come back here, comment below if you think that you met with Team Alpha. If you felt that you were kind of coerced here, that someone made a suggestion to you, like, oh, come back for your family, or come back to clear karma, or whatever it took to convince you or persuade you, comment below, because then that potentially means that you met with the beta team. If you felt that, oh, nope, I got a pretty good deal in this life, and you felt that you bargained, comment below. It could be that you met with the Gamma team. Or do you think, nope, my life is crap. I was shoved down here. I was totally forced here against my will. I was pushed, shoved, or thrown down here. Whatever the case, comment below if you think you were rough handled and were unfortunately met with Team Delta, who I call the Delta Force, or the special ops teams that essentially rough handle humans. So that's my summary of the human management team. And I have a hunch that a lot more people met the Delta Force than people realize, because a lot of people's memories are wiped, especially when they had a rough experience, because they don't want you remembering that. They want only the people that are remembering the pleasant experience with what you see here on the left, with the angels, the spirit guides, the archangels, the nice ones. They don't want people remembering the Agent Smiths, because if too many people remember that, then everyone's going to know what's going on. So, okay. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was a question that I got a few times, not only on this channel, but during the Sovereign Spirits interview. So some people asked, okay, wait a minute, if you got out, why on earth did you come back? And that's a great question. So when I went through the core and I essentially emerged into my true self, it was like breathing for the first time. I don't even know how long I was out, but I noticed that there was this crystalline prism structure around my head, and the moment I emerged, it was already like disassembling and sort of spreading out and away from my head area. And I was in this black space, but it was very bright, and it took me a second to realize that this extremely bright light was coming from me. So I looked up laser projectors. When this crystal or prism structure released from my head area, and again, I wasn't in a pod, I was just in this space. And you can see in the center of this photo here where it says prism. That's similar. It's not, so it didn't exactly look like this, but this is just an example that I'm showing here. The point is, when this prism structure disassembled from my head region, I was like, oh, like the entire world isn't here anymore. Like I realized at that moment that this entire world isn't real. We are literally, it's what you see here. We are literally projecting our reality. It seems real because we are within this body, which was literally designed to interact with this holographic projection, which is what we call experience and sensations. Without this projector, I couldn't experience any of it. I was like, oh, like literally nothing's real. It was all black. I realized too that even the astral realm is also part of the holographic projection, because I couldn't see that either. The astral realm, the various levels of the astral realm are also within this simulation, which is all, by the way, within this construct, the construct that I described in the previous video. Where I was in was outside of the construct. And I knew this because when I'm out of body in the astral realm, or even when I was in the void, sort of like, outer space, if you will, of this false construct, my physical body was fine. My physical body was just, on standby mode. But when I used this method of going through the core and emerging into the real, I knew that if I never returned, my physical body would die. It's like I knew how long I had. There was a distinct and confirmed severing of the matrix hold over me, of my body's hold over me. I was free. And if I never returned, my physical body would eventually die. And I thought, okay, well, I don't necessarily want to put my parents through that. So I made two decisions. Number one, I decided, okay, I'm going to go back just so that my parents don't have to bury their child. But I promised myself that when it's my parents' time to go, when it's my parents' time to pass on, that I will let them go. That I'm not going to let them be a reason to ever reincarnate or come back to Earth when they finally and officially pass on. But for now, I decided to not let them go through a death of a child. So that was the first decision that I made. The second decision was that I'm definitely not going to put that prism structure back on around my head. Absolutely not. But I need a way to still interact with this reality. So at that moment, I materialized my own set of goggles, or VR glasses, if you will. Ones that I can easily take off and put back on at will. And I realized, this is the reason why I was able to have out-of-body experiences in the first place. Out-of-body experiences are, for me at least, the real me taking off her structure or her, what we would call, what would correspond to a VR headset. It's the real me essentially waking up. And we're synchronized. It just so happens to be that when she, the real me, removes her VR headset, that's when I, here, this physical 3D self, goes out of body. So there's a synchronization there. And as I continue on in my journey, she and I, me and me, connect more and more. And I truly believe that everyone's true self, those who have a true self, of course, not the AI spirit, but because they don't have one, but everyone who has a true essence, that version of you is trying to wake you up. And in fact, I'm starting to believe that if you have made it this far in terms of learning about the Matrix and knowing about any of this false reality, that the only way that happened was because your true self is waking you up. It's this multi-dimensional effort going on with all the versions of you to get back to freedom. So those were the two decisions I made to, as I was coming back in. So that's why I decided to come back, but I have been back out as I was running these preliminary tests of, okay, can I make it out of the construct? Because a few people have asked me, why on earth did you come back? I came back from my parents, but I'm not going to, but I decided that once they officially pass on, I'm leaving. They're pretty much my anchor here. So once they have passed on, I'm taking the route through the core. I'm emerging back to my true self, and I'm not coming back. So that is at least where I stand as of now. Again, I'm still practicing and seeing if there's a way that, because I'm kind of wondering, is there a way that I can sort of be out there and sort of be here at the same time as well? Like, can I sort of be out there and then sort of remote control my body from there? Like, do I have to come back in order to be alive here? So I'm still working on that. But if there is no way, if leaving the matrix means that this corporal shell has to fade, then so be it. Again, I'm not trying to promote to off yourself or anything. It's just that when it comes to our natural end, whenever that is, whenever it is our time to go, the point is to go and not come back, to emerge back to your true self and be that sovereign spirit that you are.